Welcome back into the Motor Index, folks. Today we have a lot of news to discuss. Chase Elliott's instant classic victory in Atlanta, Daniel Suarez out at Trackhouse Racing, and the big Chicago street race coming up this weekend. We're going to get to all of it. Let's start with Atlanta. So, Chase Elliott gets his first victory of 2025, his first victory since winning at Texas last season. Gets it done in his home state of Atlanta, or home state of Georgia in Atlanta. Obviously, he's from Dawsonville, not Atlanta. But remarkable victory, remarkable race. Thought a lot of people are kind of trying to get on this race. Try not to overhype it too much just because Chase Elliott won. But I really do think that was one of the best races we've seen in a very long time. I would say as far back, definitely I would say the best race of this season. Definitely beat the Coca-Cola 600, and I would say it's the best race probably since Homestead of last year. We had some bangers last year, so it I don't think it beat any of those monster wins last year, but this was damn good. So yeah, Chase Elliott gets the win, beating Brad Keselowski, passing him on the final lap of the race. Keselowski was doing a really good job there, putting on a good aero blocking performance, able to hold off the contenders behind him, whether that had been, Reddick, Bowman, Keselowski, or Elliott, Jones, Stenhouse. He was able to hold off a lot of guys, and eventually it ended up with Chase Elliott there in position with Alex Bowman, his teammate, right behind him, able to give him the push ahead of Keselowski on the final during the final lap, and that was all she wrote. Pretty crazy stuff. If you listen to the Keselowski radio right after that happened, he mentions how he needed a teammate there, and he did have the teammate for a while with him with Chris Buescher, but so one thing led to another, and Buescher was cycled back. He did end up finishing in the top 10, which we're going to get in the whole top 10 here in a minute, but I do think if Buescher was up there, I think one of those cars were going to win, or at least would have given Keselowski a much better shot of holding off Elliott and some of the other contenders. How this race played out very interesting. How started off, Penske locking out the first two front rows, having a complete control on the whole entire race. I'm recording this on Thursday, so I'm kind of forgetting exactly the intricate details of every single little thing that happened. But you end up with the Penske boys leading the charge in the first stage. Austin Cindric gets the win of the stage one, I believe, under caution. And then the big one happens in the back of the pack during stage two, wrecking out every single winner this season, which is pretty crazy to think about, except for, I believe, Kyle Larson. I think Kyle Larson and Barry was involved in that. I'm pretty sure Kyle Larson was the only winner left on the track after that. And Kyle Larson had a miraculous, I don't even know what the word would be for that, evading the wreck there. He evaded a lot to not make any contact or get any significant damage on that car. Was able to continue, but I don't know exactly where he even finished. But yeah, that crash was devastating for a lot of the top dogs. But what that did was open up the top 10 to pretty much a bunch of cars who had no wins whatsoever this season. So that really, not only you cut off some of the field, and then you put all the guys who needed the win in the front, and it created an incredible show. There was a lot of wrecks, I will say. It became a little bit of a caution fest as this thing kind of went on, but still, I thought it was still really good. I thought the racing on those restarts was electric. Really good stuff. You ended up with end of stage two when Tyler Reddick wins stage two, beating Chase Elliott to the line in a photo finish. Thought that was great. We know how big a playoff point might be to both of those guys, so that was a big one for Tyler Reddick potentially. And I guess getting on into stage three, I thought Tyler Reddick, with the way the strategy played out, with him having the freshest tires there at the end and making a hard charge to the front, I thought Tyler Reddick was potentially in the driver's seat to win this race and go past Keselowski, which I believe he did end up passing Keselowski at one point and then gets repassed. But yeah, and it wasn't like Tyler Reddick really had the car. It wasn't like Tyler Reddick had that lightning speed out of his car that you thought, oh, this is definitely one of the top five cars in the mix to win. He just kind of timed or had that strategy play out well, and uh, yeah, Tyler Reddick, he ends up coming home fourth, but really solid run there, even though the speed wasn't, race winning speed per se, did end up putting himself in position to win. So, I guess let's just get on into the top finishers here. So we've obviously talked about Chase Elliott. We've talked about Tyler Reddick, who ended up coming home in fourth. Brad Keselowski finishes second. Heartbreaker for him. Um, and this was one of his last real great shots to win to get himself in the playoffs. I think if I'm Brad Keselowski, you've got Daytona on the final week of the regular season circled as one you have pretty much no choice but to win. If you want to at least make the playoffs, that is. So, yeah, it's going to be tough for Brad. I don't even know where else. Maybe Indianapolis, maybe. But even then, I feel like that's going to be the 5-11 show at Indianapolis. I'm trying to think of any other oval. I don't know. I really don't think he's going to get it done on the road courses, Brad. But definitely not Dover. Probably not Dover. I think we still might have Richmond. I think he's done Richmond before. If that's in the regular season, maybe he could do it out of Richmond. But other than that, I think he's going to have to win Daytona, if I'm being completely honest. I just don't see it happening anywhere else, not at least with the current speed of the 6 team. But moving on, coming home third, Alex Bowman, like we mentioned, giving Chase Elliott the shove that he needed to win. A lot of people are writing Bowman out of that 48 car, but he continues to find ways to finish in the top 10 and get good results. So if you keep doing that, Alex Bowman, you're going to probably have a ride for 2026 at HMS, though we'll see. I think there's potentially some things to come on that. But I also do think Alex Bowman, though, does have a really good shot to win at least by the end of 2025. I still think we're going to get an Alex Bowman win, which I could be potentially completely wrong, but I do think Alex Bowman will get a win before the end of the 2025 season. Maybe not the regular season, but before the end of 2025. So, we already talked about Tyler Reddick. Eric Jones coming home fifth. Great run for him. Legacy continues to show a lot better speed this season. Not really surprising to see Eric Jones, though, at the front at a drafting racetrack. We know how good he is at that type of racing. Ricky Stenhouse, another guy. Ricky Stenhouse coming home in sixth. Another guy very similar to Jones, one of these super speedway ringers, if you will. He's another guy showing a lot better speed, overperforming in the equipment that he's racing. Coming home sixth. There was a point in this race, I think he was running as high as third, Stenhouse. I thought there was a potential shot he could go on and win this race too. So, who knows? Zane Smith coming home seventh. Zane Smith was leading this race as the laps wound down, trading it off with, Brad Keselowski, Tyler Reddick. Those are really the three dogs at the front there as those laps were closing off. And then you end up with Chase Elliott getting back in the mix. But Zane Smith, fantastic run. Really started to become a super speedway ringer like those last two I mentioned. But Zane Smith, maybe not the year you'd like to have had if you're Zane Smith. But Zane Smith, like I said, becoming a strong factor at these super speedways. Ty Dillon, another solid run at a super speedway, but getting a better finish than he had gotten at, Talladega, Daytona, Atlanta. I'm forgetting where he finished at Atlanta and Daytona, but I know at Talladega he was running inside the top 10, ended up finishing like 24th or something. I know that because I talked to Ty Dillon after that race and interviewed him, because I thought he finished inside the top 10 based off where he was running at the end of that race and where he ended up pulling off of onto pit road post race. I thought he finished inside the top 10, ended up getting shuffled back in the final laps, but still the super speedway speed, that's a hard one to say, for Ty Dillon has been really solid. Do I think they'll compete anywhere else? Probably not. Maybe a road course, maybe. But even then, I don't know. We'll see about Ty Dillon. We're gonna get into the Daniel Suarez thing in a minute, and I think Ty Dillon does have potential ramifications in that situation. So we'll get back to that. Chris Buescher coming home ninth. I already kind of mentioned how his day played out. Looked to be a contender, but ended up coming home ninth. I do think Chris Buescher's in line for a win before the end of the regular season. Probably at a road course, if I'm being completely honest. But I think, frankly, anywhere. I frankly think anywhere we're running in the next 6, 7 weeks, however many weeks it is till the playoffs, I think he can win every race. I absolutely do. And then Carson Hocevar coming home top 10 in 10th. Yeah, I mean, another solid run from Hocevar, kind of what we've come to expect. Good for him to get the result coming home 10th. Whereas a lot of these races, if you looked at Carson Hocevar's finishes, you'd think, oh, this guy's not having a great season. But if you looked at the laps run inside the top 5 or laps run inside the top 10, oh, Carson would be probably in the top 10 of those stats. So good to see him get a solid finish there at Atlanta. And I think that's really it. I don't really think there's any other storylines to cover with Atlanta. So let's move on to Daniel Suarez getting the boot at Trackhouse Racing. And I don't think this was very surprising to very many people. Maybe to some Suarez fans who were hoping that Xfinity win in Mexico City maybe was going to save his cup job. But I think he's probably going to Xfinity next year. I saw some rumors today that what we all kind of think is going to come, which is him getting a ride at Junior Motorsports. I saw that rumor is beginning to pick up some steam today. But it's unfortunate because, all of us that follow the sport really closely, we all know Daniel really well, know how great of a guy he is. And, you hate to see a guy of that, character lose a ride in the Cup Series, and especially with the story and the background of how Daniel came into NASCAR, you do really hate to see him lose a ride like Trackhouse Racing, because I don't think he's going to get a better opportunity in the Cup Series unless he was to go down into Xfinity, maybe win a few more championships. Maybe another opportunity falls his way. Though I don't think he'll ever get another chance at a team bigger than Trackhouse, unfortunately. Maybe if a team like a Chevrolet team needs a fill-in driver for whatever reason, maybe at a Hendrick or something, maybe you could see Suarez fill in Cup, or maybe run a one-off race like the Daytona 500 or something for an open team or something. But as far as a full-time Cup career, I think it's at least going to be a year or two away from getting back into full-time Cup, because I think that's the big thing with Daniel, is that there's just not a lot of Cup rides at the moment. Had Daniel done this last offseason, there was a lot of potential Cup rides there for him. But, yeah, I think he's probably going to the JRM 9 car next year in Xfinity. And I think he probably comes back to Cup a year or two after that, in probably a worst ride, though. Though, I think, like I mentioned Ty Dillon earlier, if Daniel is to secure a Cup ride for 2026, I think it would probably be that 10 car of Ty Dillon. We'll see. I've seen that thrown around a lot. Though, what would you... everybody likes to say, oh, the big show's on Sunday, you're nothing until you're running on Sundays, which I get it. I completely get it. But being in a JRM built car on Saturdays is pretty damn good too. And, you can make a serious career winning the Xfinity Series, especially in a car built by JRM. I mean, I would be taking that in a heartbeat personally. But we'll see what Daniel decides to do. Hoping for all the best because, like I said, Daniel's a great guy, and you like to see the good guys in the sport continue to have success, and I think he will have more success in the sport. Just might take a little while till we see that again in the Cup Series, at least going beyond 2025. So we'll see. Let's get on to the Chicago Street Course. I'm sure it'll be affected by rain like it has been the last 2 years. Would really like to see a dry sunny Chicago street race. I know I'm asking for a lot there, especially in a city who prides itself on having incredible summers. Why is it every time NASCAR comes to town, it just goes nuts with the weather? I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, but it is what it is. So yeah, the one thing I would like to see this race though, and we did get it last year with Alex Bowman. I'll give him that. I would like to see a contender, like a playoff championship contender, win this race, and not like, don't get me wrong, SVG could go on and win this race, and SVG is a playoff driver now. He might win the race, though. I would like to see it be somebody who's high up in the points, a star win in that big Chicago market, because don't get me wrong, Alex Bowman, top tier driver, you know, maybe not so much as far as the points are concerned, racing for a big team, did win last year. But the year prior, your big grand old debut in Chicago, having a guy winning his first career start. I mean, it's a great story, but if your goal going to Chicago is to promote the NASCAR brand and promote the sport and get more eyeballs on it, I think you want a big name driver winning. Because then when they see a big name driver win in Chicago, and then they go tune into other races and they see that big name driver contending every single week and winning potentially more times than not, or at least more frequently than somebody like an SVG. I think that's better for the sport. So we'll see who wins this race. I mean, I got my picks here, and we're going to go down my picks of who I think will win, who will contend, and whatnot. And I guess we could just hop right into that because I don't really got much else to say on Chicago other than that. So my race pick, I got it written down here, and I'm trying to figure out if I want to stay with it. I think I will, for the sole purpose as I saw his paint scheme for Chicago this week. If it was the right one I was seeing, it looks a lot like his winning car from last year in October. Not here in Chicago, but at Homestead. I'm picking Tyler Reddick to win here. I think Tyler Reddick, he doesn't need a win because I think he'll easily point his way in if he needs to. But I think Tyler Reddick's going to go on and win this race, clinch his playoff spot, and I think for Tyler Reddick's sake and 23XI's sake, get that team, that ship steered in the right direction, because we all know how insane Reddick was at the end of the regular season last year, heading into the playoffs, that final 8 or 9 race stretch of the regular season. He was lightning quick, top 10s every single week, winning. I think we need to see that from Reddick, especially if he's going to contend for a championship this year, which right now he's absolutely in no place to do so. That can change. I mean, it could change just like Joey Logano last year. One win, bang, you're right back in the title mix. But I don't know. We'll see. He's going to be my pick this week because he's ran well at Chicago before. One of those guys who you don't necessarily think about at the road courses, even though the stats are fairly good. He's not a road course guy that you think of every time. But the stats do back this up, that Tyler Reddick is really good on road courses. And I'm going Tyler Reddick. I think he gets the victory, gets himself locked in the playoffs, and gives them some breathing room heading into the final few weeks of the regular season. So as far as contenders, SVG, Alex Bowman, the last 2 winners here, I absolutely think will both be in the mix. Michael McDowell. I think Michael McDowell has been in the mix in both of the races here and has been proven to be an incredible road racer. And one of those guys also who wasn't good at road racing, but because he focused so hard on that craft, has become really, really good at it. So look for Michael McDowell to contend. Ross Chastain, I just feel like the whole the whole Trackhouse camp typically shows up really well in Chicago. So look for maybe Chastain, maybe a Christopher Bell. That's kind of the group I'm expecting to contend here. I don't know. Could just get a completely random winner too. We'll see. I don't know. The way this race has played out, this race has tended, I don't know if it's because of the rain. I don't know if it's because of the location. It tends to be a little bit of a chaos race. So we're going to see how this race plays out. But I would like to see it have some compelling strategy and some great racing, and hopefully maybe a little more orderly than prior years. But if we're going to go the chaos route like we have, so be it. I'll gladly watch that as well. So, with that being said, thank y'all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. And thank y'all. I already said it. Thank y'all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. And I hope y'all tune in and enjoy the races this weekend. Thank y'all. God bless.